It don't matter where you are in your life. You don't have to do it by yourself. It don't matter what you need. Colin can help.
We are now live. We're on Colin's Conversations. I'll let you introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are, where you came from, and kind of where your whole journey got started.
Well, my name is Meagan Carner. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Been here born and raised, and went to college here. And then in 2005, I left Cleveland for Atlanta to go to grad school. And that's where I got my first master's degree in global management. Was there for about 2 years and really loved it, but then was offered a position at a global nonprofit in Washington, D.C. So brand new to Washington, D.C., completely different culture, everything, but moved there, and I've been there for the past now 12 years, working for a local nonprofit. And and then since living there, I've gotten my second master's degree in education, because it was actually in Atlanta where education and wanting to be more involved in it and wanting to work in it, I developed my passion in Atlanta, and started doing some things on my own, trying to write a curriculum for kids. Because I was born and raised as a Christian, a strong Christian, I wanted to do something that incorporated my beliefs and what I was really passionate about, which was education, but education in kids, young kids. And so doing things on my own really didn't work out. I realized I needed something solid. I needed an education. I needed a skill set. I needed to be skilled in what I wanted to do. My passion wasn't enough. So when I moved to DC, after working for several years, I went back to get a second master's degree in education with a concentration in curriculum and instruction, so that I would be able to actually walk into what it is I wanted to do and know that I had the knowledge and the background to do it. And that's where actually I am now.
That's awesome. So you gave a whole bunch of things to run with there.
Yeah.
Growing up, now that you're writing curriculum, what was it like going to school for you? Were you the straight A student from the beginning, or did you have troubles and kind of learn to get better at school? What was school like?
School was great. I grew up in the public education school system, but I did pretty well. I was on honor roll. I don't even know if Spur is still around, but I was on Spur, which was sort of like, you were up there with the honor roll kids. I did pretty well in school. I want to say that I don't know if I excelled, but did pretty well. And but I also, being raised in the church, I also had that education as well. I had that background as well. And so I didn't grow up going to private school or anything like that, but I've always appreciated learning scripture, learning the Bible, being in church. And I used to not envy, but kids that had that in school. I just kind of always thought about, that's really cool to be able to put together and integrate what they're learning in church, because really what you're learning in church is supposed to be what you take into the world. The same way what you learn in school is what you're supposed to take into the world. And so loving the way those two integrate with each other, it's just developed into a passion as I got older.
And did you do a lot of like youth groups and travel? Like what was your involvement in the church growing up?
The church growing up, I volunteered. I participated the usher board and things like that. Sunday school. Always went to Vacation Bible School. Really loved that every year. And that was, I just loved learning. I just loved learning the Bible. My mom and I, every night we would sit, and even though growing up, it was still kind of like, I gotta sit and read the Bible, but I realized the effect that it had on me as I got older. So we didn't do too much traveling with my church. Our youth group really didn't do that, but just volunteering at the church and things like that, always involved in functions and events and things like that.
And what type of lessons did you learn early on in church that you could now find in your curriculum? Have you just carried some things along with you the whole way?
I think one of the things I try to drive home in my curriculum is changed behavior. That is what this entire workbook series is about, is that behavior can be it can be changed, it can be developed. And it starts very young, which is why my workbook series starts at the pre-K and kindergarten age, because that is such a critical age for kids. And that their behavior can be shaped, and it can be shaped in a way that, because essentially what you teach a child or what you fail to teach a child is what they take into the world. That is what they take into society. That is how they become or not become a productive person in society. Just in values, really, it's really teaching a value system. And that's the main driving point in the whole workbook series, is change behavior. And I would like to think that that's what's most important to me about my faith. It's how I treat people, how I demonstrate. Some people may say it's too Christian-y, but the fruit of the Spirit is nothing but love and joy and kindness. That's something anybody can have. That's something you can teach anybody, to have patience with people, to be kind to people. And that's what I want to drive home, is really shaping behavior of kids at an early age.
What's your favorite age group to work with or be around?
Kindergartners.
Young
kids, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. Just the end of June, I participated for my first year at my church in Virginia in our vacation Bible school, and that was the age group I volunteered to work with, and I loved it. They were great, they're trying, but they listen, and they're kids. They obey, they do what you tell them to do, but they just take in everything. They are like sponges, and I love that. And it frustrates me when I see people begin to develop kids in just the wrong path. Everything you say to them, they'll repeat and they remember and they take it in. And I love that. And being able to have that influence, and hopefully it's a good influence over kids, is what I love to do.
Yeah, I would say, as horrible of a thing as it would be if somebody showed up after 4 or 5 years after dating them and just was like on my doorstep and was like, hey, we have a 4-year-old, never told you about him. That'd be the best thing in the world, because then you skip all the diapers and everything. Yes. Like that 4 or 5-year-old age, you're like, you know how to use the toilet, you know how to say yes, no. By now you should know how to say please. I can send you to do a few things. Like, they're great. Yes, like you said, as long as you train them and say, hey, like, you do this because you live here, you're supposed to help out.
Right.
Like, it doesn't get to be where they're 10, 12, 14 and they're like, I'm not doing chores because I never had to do them before. Like,
right. Yes.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, little boys, I think, like you said, are sponges, and the fact that not only do they soak up everything, but they're dirty, they're stinky, yes. They are a sponge. They're a used sponge.
Yes.
So let's kind of go a little bit more into your workbook. It's called CRAM.
Yes.
How did you get the name? How did all of it, what was that moment that you're like, I'm going to write the curriculum, I'm going to do it myself?
Yeah. Well, it was living in Atlanta, and like I said, I was in Atlanta for just 2 years, but that's the first time I've lived away from home. And, I don't know, it's something about the atmosphere, the environment in Atlanta. When I moved there, I never had any inkling, any desire to go into business for myself. I always thought that you just go, you work somewhere 30 years in corporate America, then you retire, and maybe you want to just spend the rest of your days at a nonprofit helping people. But working in Atlanta, I was working for a business consulting firm. And one of the things we did was we did the books and the accounting for a lot of different small businesses. So once I was there for probably a year, they gave me a couple clients to do their books. So one of my clients was a sorority. One of my clients was a guy who promoted Christian rock concerts. He also did music and marketing ads for Toyota. One person was a ghostwriter. I mean, I had clients that did all types of things. And I thought, this is so cool. I mean, it's people that do some of anything out here, And also what I learned in that environment working in Atlanta is that everyone there is trying to sort of climb to the top, but it's not like I have to step on you to get there. We can each get there. And it doesn't mean I have to knock you down just to get to the top. And I said, okay, this is really cool. Maybe going into business for myself would be something I'd want to do. And I said, okay, what does that even look like? What do I want to do? And education has always been my passion. And education in young kids has always been a passion of mine. When I first went away to college, even though I came home because I got homesick, when I first went away to college, my major was elementary education. And so it kind of came full circle, even years later, living in Atlanta. And I said, okay, I want to go into elementary education. What does that look like? But I knew that I didn't want to necessarily teach. I wanted to be involved in the writing of it. And I said, okay, let's try to do it on my own. I knew that I didn't necessarily want to create a new curriculum, but I want to take what's out there and incorporate Christian principles and biblical principles. How do I do that? So I just started writing. I said, well, if I want to write and I want to create, I just start creating and writing and writing. And before I knew it, I was done with grad school, and then I get offered a job here, in Virginia. And that job, it brought me to DC, and it just sort of took over. And so my writing sort of went on the back burner for a while. And I found that I was just sort of getting stagnant. I was getting too complacent, and I said, no, my passion is still there. It's still what I want to do. So I started writing again and trying to develop the curriculum on my own. And I found I was just sort of going in circles with it. And I said, you know what, Meagan, if you really want someone to take you seriously, you want to get into the education field, you're going to need something that says you're qualified to be here. So I said, okay, now I'll go back and get a master's in education. What does that look like? And I knew the kind of curriculum I wanted to do. So I went to a Christian university, Regent University in Virginia Beach. Did that program, loved it. You don't meet too many people that say they loved grad school. I loved going through their program, absolutely loved it. And so I went through that for 2 years. Back in 2014, in 2016 I graduated, and it was like a light. Like, that is exactly what I needed. The skill set they gave me is exactly what I essentially used part of my curriculum throughout the program. As when I would submit papers and things like that, I would use part of my curriculum as my report. Mm-hmm. And so then once I graduated, now I said, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to move forward on this. And I had a clear picture of what I wanted to do. And it wasn't necessarily creating a brand new curriculum. It was taking what kids are learning at that age already: addition, subtraction, multiplication, geometric shapes, all those things, but just incorporating biblical principles into it. Very often, I would go into bookstores and I would see math books, science books, and then religious books. And I said, why can't this sort of be fused together? Because they don't have to be separate. You can begin to influence behavior by putting them together, not teaching them separately that they have to be two separate things. That this is how you can instruct a child while developing their character and their behavior all at the same time with their learning. And so I started really focusing on it right when I graduated in 2016. And started writing it and got with a designer, and I figured that what I wanted to do, sort of following the Virginia Board of Education, their curriculum for kindergartners, and what those lessons are. It's math, it's life science, it's social science, and language arts. So those are the 4 parts of my curriculum series, which is more actually like a resource tool. I actually look at my workbook series as a resource tool for parents, because it just adds on to what their kids are already learning. Whether your kids are in school, whether you homeschool, whether your kids are in youth church, it's just another resource tool for parents to have at home to reinforce what their kids are already learning, but incorporate Christian content and Christian principles into it. And so right now we have the life science and the math are out. And I remember someone said to me, Meagan, how do you incorporate biblical principles into math? I mean, math is pretty straightforward, it's addition and subtraction. And so what we do in the math book is I bring in the concept of money. Because if kids can understand numbers, once they understand addition, subtraction, they can understand money. And they understand money at a very young age. And so with CRAM, for the math workbook, we teach money, though, in terms of stewardship versus just consumption. That you earn money, but you also save it. You also do good with it. You also tithe from it, which is a Christian principle of putting aside 10% of your income or of your increase. And that's how we teach stewardship and actually being responsible. because what a lot of people don't realize is that money is like the number one competitor to God in our lives. If you really stop and think about it, money competes with God very often with people. And what I want to teach in CRAM is how money is useful and it is desirable, but how does God treat money in our lives, and how are we to treat the increase? Not just looking at money as tangible, but looking at it as an increase to our lives the same way every day is an increase to your life. Every day, what kind of person are you out here in society? Are you a productive person? Are you someone who's giving back? Are you someone that's extending a hand to lift someone up? And that's what your money is supposed to be used for, not just in consuming it all to say I've got a lot of money, you know. So that's the angle that we take with the math. Life science is a little different. And I went back and forth on whether or not to call it science or this kind of science, life science. People get a little weird about life science. Well, life science, that's not the rocks and the stars and the moon and, you know, all that. But I teach it in terms of our life, in terms of creation, why we were created, why God created us. Human beings are actually the only thing, or the only life form that God actually created. Everything else was, let this be, let that be. But God breathed into us life. Okay, then we have an ultimate supreme purpose over the grass, over the animals, over all of that. There's a reason God put us here. And it's to be a light in this world for Him. And so that's how we come at life science. That's how I come at life science in that workbook. And the other two, social science and language arts, are in the works, and they're coming soon. But right now, the math and the life science are the ones that are out. And I've gotten great feedback just from parents, especially homeschool parents, who have used this book, the workbooks already with their kids, and just love it. Actually, one critique that a parent gave me was that I wish it was longer. She's like, I really wish there was more here. My kids were loving the book so much, I wish it was longer.
I just gave that same critique. What would that be? About 3 episodes ago, I did an interview with a group, Dirty Backpack. It's a rap group. One of my buddies is in it. Okay. And they just put out an EP. It's about 8 songs. And normally, like when I'm cutting grass and stuff, I'll try new music or listen to new podcasts or whatever. And usually you think new CD, you're like, oh, about an hour. And I think it actually might have been the house we're at now, where I was cutting. And like I got done with the front yard, and I was like, CD's over. He's like, oh, what did you think of the new project? I was like, it's great, but like, where's the rest of it, man? Like, it's everything you did was fantastic. Every song could have been longer, like, but same thing where you're like, it's kind of like a good book where you're like, at the end of it, you're like, oh, I could have read that for another couple of days. Oh well.
Right.
And you mentioned homeschool parents. Is that your number one target market, or
that? Homeschool parents are, just because I love the idea. I am not a mom yet, would love to be, but I love the idea of homeschooling. I have friends who were homeschooled. I have friends who are homeschooling their kids. And I think it's just the coolest thing in the world. First of all, it's a privilege to be able to do that. And I see one of my close friends, she's actually a coworker, and I've been to her home and watched how she homeschools. She actually uses the workbooks with her kids. And I've watched how her kids develop. And it's just amazing to be able to have that interaction with your kids, but then set aside the way she teaches them and that one-on-one that they get. It's just like, wow, you can't replace that. You can't, And so homeschool parents, I have gotten a lot of great feedback, and they are, I would say, my number one target audience. I would love to be in like private schools. I would love to have that. Sometimes it gets a little iffy because a lot of schools want your work to be accredited and they have certain guidelines that they have to follow. But youth churches, homeschool parents, that's like my target. Daycares, preschools would love that, So yeah, homeschool parents, but homeschool parents are a market that I'm definitely trying to get to.
And the actual book, you mentioned that you got with a designer. Mm-hmm. Was that like an illustrator? Was that to actually figure out how to place the different chapters? Who all else was involved, and what were the different things that you either did by yourself or outsourced?
Yeah, the designer was given to me, Green Root Design. They were given to me by a very close friend of mine, and they are actually very strong Christians, and they love the idea of what I wanted to do. And the wife is actually an illustrator. Every single picture in my workbooks was designed. It didn't come from Google, it didn't come from anywhere. She drew it. And she sort of developed this character. You'll see like this character, the character of the Isle. He does different things, you know, on each book. And I love that. She sort of developed this character that's very present throughout each workbook. And it was great. I mean, it went through maybe 2 or 3 months of, I wrote everything out, all the text, and she just took it and created characters, created pictures around everything that I did. And she had a ball with it. She loved it. She was like, I really want this for my kids. Her kids are like 1 and 2, so they're kind of young. But that's how the design phase went. And she drew everything, and there you have it. And it was really a great process working each year. We did the first book in 2017, the math book, end of 2017. And then life science was done literally a year later, around that same time.
And are you testing these out on anybody, or are you kind of just figuring, I know what I'm doing, kind of just let's put it out there?
Well, I've had I've had a couple parents review it, independent. I went through a homeschool publishing company called the Old School House, and some of their clients reviewed the book on their own and gave it very great reviews. They used the books with their kids over a period of months and walked through the process of how they used it, what they loved about it. The critique was even their critique of it was super helpful for me. You know, things that they would love to see me do with the books. And so that's how I've kind of been testing it out, being a vendor where I can at different conferences and things like that. And I've had some friends use it with their kids and give me honest feedback about what they would like to see different about it. And that's pretty much how I've been testing it out.
And you kind of touched on, I think I might know a little bit of this answer before I asked the question from what we were doing before you started rolling, but writing curriculum, getting the book done, selling the book, marketing the book, what's the hardest part?
The hardest part is marketing and getting in front of the right people, getting in front of the right audience. And then how do you then sell it? You know, I love it. I love talking about it. I love showing it to people. I love hearing their feedback. And then niching that sell, getting that sell across is probably the hardest part, you know. I love writing content. I love actually writing these books so much. And so when it gets into the marketing, all the social media and everything, it's kind of like, oh gosh, well, how do I say it? How do I approach it? How do you know, the right words to use and things like that. And then I look for experts for that because I'm just not skilled in that. I know what I think is critical. I know what I think is important. I know what I think is great about this book. I know that what I would want my child to get out of this book. So I try to convey that and really just get across to parents how cool of a project I think, how cool of a product I think this is, and how we incorporate biblical principles and academics. Your kids are learning. They are learning academics appropriate for their ages, but also adding in things that they're experiencing out in the world and how they can combat that with their faith and with their belief, even at a very young age. And we make it understandable and digestible for even 4 and 5-year-olds.
Green Root Design, you said, was the ones that did the illustration on there too, right?
Yes.
They also, it looks like they're the ones that did your website?
They did.
They did a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you.
Like, that's part of like the marketing thing that of like a tedious part of my job is going through both prospective and current clients of their marketing, how could they do things better and everything else, which is also something that I try to bring into the podcast as well, of like not only help you tell your story, but also kind of go through the story you're telling and kind of use my marketing expertise and throw some things off you.
Okay.
And there's hardly anything that I can pull against your website. Like
really?
The fonts that they used, it's simple to use. Did they also make the logo that's on your shirt and all over the place?
They did, yes.
They knocked that out of the park too.
We did it took maybe a month and a half to really come up with a logo that I liked, that I wanted to convey, and that I thought was cute. You know, the colors, everything. They came up with the whole branding and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, their branding is spot on. To me, the CRAM, the way they do the colors, it kind of is like the Crayola, kind of like a little. Was that what you guys were going for? CRAM's idea.
We wanted it. We wanted to attract kids and parents with young kids. We wanted colors that were bright, and they just had an eye for it. The designer just really had an eye for it. And when you're talking about CRAM, the name, everyone asks CRAM, where did you come up with that? Well, CRAM does stand for the Christian Resource and Academic Manual.
But it's also your cramming and kind of.
Yes, thank you. Yes, a lot of people say, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it's like a resource tool. So it sort of puts in all those things that kids are learning into one book, the way you like cram for a test or cram for, yeah.
Yeah, I totally got that. As soon as you sent over like at cram.com, cramforkids.com, I was like, oh, I got that. One of the first interviews I did on the podcast was you like coffee?
I love coffee, yes.
While you're in town, you have to go downtown. It's a pain in the ass to park, but other than that, it's a great place to go. Called Pour Cleveland.
P-O-U-R.
P-O-U-R. Okay. But I got through almost the whole interview until you kind of let me know that it was a play on words of, poor Cleveland, always, the butt of everybody's jokes.
Right.
P-O-O-R. But,
right.
And then it's a couple people was like, oh, poor Cleveland, haha. I was like, oh, you got it. I had to be explained to me. But yeah, they have undoubtedly the best coffee in all of Cleveland. If not, I've traveled to most of the states in the country, and they knock it out of the park. Charlie,
really?
Like they reverse osmosis their water, and like all of their stuff is weighed on scales. It's not like a cup, like it's the exact grams every time. They have coffee literally down to science. And
really?
It's East 6. We can look it up later. But it's like pain in the ass to park. Great coffee if you can find if you can find a spot. It's not worth going all the way to the garage parking and have to pay a day rate just to go get a cup of coffee. But they also have a espresso milkshake.
Wow.
It's about $2 or $3 more than it should be, but it's delicious.
Espresso milkshake. Wow, that sounds
Yeah, like it's kind of like a frozen macchiato almost, but with real ingredients, not like a Dairy Queen or Starbucks.
Okay.
But yeah, while you're in town, if you like coffee, it's worth checking them out.
Wow. Okay.
But back to you're just about everywhere. I mean, you have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Yes. What's your favorite platform to use and favorite platform to use as a marketing tool?
I would probably say Instagram. Instagram is, maybe it's me, but I think it's like the easiest to use. Facebook, I'm delving more into doing ads and trying to get into that. I'm hearing a lot of people talking about ads are the thing to do and everything on Facebook. I love also not just putting my stuff out there, but CRAM giving its opinion on a lot of different educational articles and things like that. So I love Facebook for that, being able to do that. Not just promoting myself, but also promoting what I think and how that plays into my workbook series. But I would say Twitter's a little different because Twitter is more, it's more article based. It's not really a big platform for something like selling a product. But I do get on there. I get on Twitter and try to give my opinion on different things. But I would say Instagram is one that I use the most, and that's where I get the most traction.
All of those statements, fact check.
Yeah.
You didn't mention YouTube. You are on YouTube. You have a few videos. Do you not like YouTube?
No, it's, you know what? It's a little nervous doing the videos. I'm just now getting into video because everything is video. I had to learn that, after Google, the number one search engine is YouTube. And so whether or not you like, getting yourself out there, on my YouTube channel, a couple of my videos, I'm not on there because it's just really getting used to the sound of my own voice. It's getting used to putting my work out there in video format. So I do want to start doing things more where I am more visible, because I actually enjoy it. It's just sitting down to do it, and then, oh my gosh, when you get into editing and all that, I'm like, oh my God, no. So, yeah.
So let's kind of break each one of those up piece by piece. I do disagree with the way that you describe Twitter.
Really?
I personally hate Twitter.
Really?
I'm only on it, like you said, because it's one of those, like, everybody looks to see the top 4 pillars. You have to be on all 4. But the first way that you described Twitter, I believe, was that you said it was article-based. But everything that you're sharing on Facebook is article-based. So it's the same content that you'd be putting on Facebook, taking those same links and throwing them over to Twitter. It'll take you 5 seconds and it'll double. I mean, you kind of rephrase your wording a little bit shorter.
Yeah, the rephrase more. Yeah.
You know, if you're captioning it, you kind of got to narrow it down to 2 or 3 sentences to stay in their limit. But kind of just repurposing that, because you asked me earlier, how do I have time to do everything?
Yeah.
You have 95 posts on Instagram total. I'm putting out over 100 a month.
Wow.
Of original content.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
The way I have time to do that is I multitask and I repurpose everything. So just in this interview alone, like we were saying, we have 2 cameras running. Now we have 2 cameras running. Half a second there, we only had 1. But so by doing this, we have a full long form video, long form podcast, and then each, like I said, each question or each topic that we bring up, chop those into segments.
Yeah.
That's 40 different segments out of watching an hour video. And then you just edit each one into its own thing. A big tool that I've used lately and I've been recommending is called Later.com.
I've heard of Later.
I've tested out the majority of the different scheduling ones, and I think that's my favorite.
Really?
It does have a few things that it's lacking, and it is a little bit laborsome to kind of figure out the thing of it. But like I just recently have tried to stick to Instagram every day, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. There's going to be a post on Colin's Conversations. Kind of taking the focus away from the Colin Can Help, because that's another one where I broke it into 2 separate brands, essentially, the marketing consulting podcast, just so that way it wasn't flooded with all just podcast. And that podcast page alone in the last 10 months is just short of 2,000 followers.
Yeah, I see that.
So by breaking that off, I have that 2,000, then I have another 2,000 on Colin Can Help. Some of them interlap, but that's a 4,000 brand because I'm specializing the content.
Okay.
So from the one clip, what you said about school, then you tag the school that you went to. If you were talking about Green Root Publishing, tag them. And then you kind of build and kind of just find the way to intermingle and repurpose them. And then for Instagram, it'll be a square thing, or if it's a nice, one of the longer things that you said in this interview, like a 2 or 3 minute answer, perfect for Instagram TV. So you kind of just figure out the same story could go into different boxes and different words and things like that, and be a completely brand new piece for everything.
And I hear that a lot. And I think for me, it's how do I break those things up when, even video and audio, I guess I just get intimidated by it. And I think that's the thing, because I'm for certain I can take the videos that I've done and break them up. But for me, it's like, okay, how do you do that? How do you even do that? How do you begin to chop up those things? And I think it's probably just sitting and making an intentional choice to sit and learn how to do that thing, how to do that.
Yeah, you either have to learn how to do it or make the call and say, hey, I need to hire you for content creation.
Okay.
Kind of doubling down on your curriculum and giving the marketing to somebody else. Or does it make sense? Do you like it enough to learn it? And kind of like you said, you're natural in front of the camera. I mean, you're already sitting comfortable, you're talking comfortable, everything's comfortable. To where, same too, if you had a podcast, which you should, it's going to be one of my recommendations. It's super easy to start.
Really?
But just like we said here, it's as simple as getting a cheap tripod, setting your cell phone up, even if you don't have an extra microphone, and then just write out the questions of what would people ask you, or what do they ask you at the shows. Answer those. Take a 10-second break so you know an easy place to chop it, answer the next question. Then you have 10 videos. That's 10 days of content, and you're just, like I said earlier, just reverse engineering what would people want to know about me. Okay, this is what I think they want to know, this is what they're telling me I want to know, and make a video for it.
Make a video, okay.
We also mentioned you're looking in Facebook for ads. You're personally on LinkedIn, right? Do you have
Yes.
do you have CRAM on LinkedIn?
I do.
LinkedIn, if you like to write it all, is a fantastic spot nowadays for organic reach.
Okay.
Where Instagram and Facebook, you kind of have to pay to play now in order to get,
Right.
Because like I got 4,000 people and 100 of them see a post, unless you put some money behind it.
Okay.
Which is one of those you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
And I put money behind it, and I saw the reach, but it's putting money behind it. Yeah.
But even if you put money behind a LinkedIn, write an article of mathematics for kindergartens and kind of target the stay-at-home mom or the Bible school leader. Or you have, especially with LinkedIn, you have a lot more easy way to kind of peep in and pray where do you work? What do you do? Kind of connecting those professional dots.
Okay.
Other marketing things you already mentioned with your YouTube videos, feel free to sit in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Say the exact same things. You could say the same script that you had on the CRAM overview, just in person, and it's a brand new video. And
That's true.
And by putting you out there, putting your face and your passion behind it, and they see you being animated about what you're talking about, it's a lot more. Because the CRAM overview, it's just like you're at a conference. You're kind of watching through the slides. You're like, oh, all right, next slide. I already read this one. Next slide. And I mean that in the most positive way possible.
I do,
but opposed to where if you see you smiling and talking and animated and you have the book in front of you, it's a much better way to keep the attention, because it's amazing. For me personally, the hour-long videos I put out every week hit very few, 5-10 views on like a YouTube. But then the individual clip from that interview, I'll take, say, 10 of them. Each one will hit 100, 200 on Instagram every time.
Wow. Okay.
So it's one of those, people's attention spans, they don't want to watch the full hour. Some people do.
Yeah.
And some people really enjoy it, and that's why having the audio version of it is great too, where you can put a link on your site, check out the free CRAM podcast. It doesn't take you very much. If any video you make, you just take the audio right from it and upload it. So it's one of those, just repurposing the video or you could type down everything that you say and write it into an article.
Right.
So all of that definitely takes time. So it's one of those, that's where I said, that's where some people hear what a content creator charges, and none of us charge enough, honestly, for the amount of time that you could put into it.
It is, yes.
Like people don't think that especially if anything has manual transcriptions, if it's a 3-minute video, it takes me 30 minutes to run through everyone, to put every word in the right place.
Right.
Or you're paying a company to do it, or it's...
Right.
But to do all those, you don't have, I don't think I saw hardly any videos on your Instagram, right? They're almost all, they're all text.
They're pretty much all
but they're great. They're great colors and everything. But video on Instagram hits at least double instantly through the algorithm. Twice as many people are going to get the video opposed to a photo.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know that.
So, I mean, if you're averaging 3, 8, 9, 12...
Yeah.
That's 16, 24 off the bat, opposed to going bigger. Another one on Instagram is you're following 79 people. That should be in the thousands.
Yeah.
There's an app that I use called Cleaner, just like, window cleaner.
Okay.
I think it starts out free. I'm pretty sure I have a paid version of $5 or whatever dollars forever. But what that does is it allows you to go through and get different lists of who's following you back, who's not following you back, and things like that. So then within Instagram, what I always recommend people doing is kind of going and typing in youth group, church, homeschool, whatever your keywords are, because you already have a basic idea of what keywords you're looking for. You're
and there are hashtags that I follow, but you're talking something different.
Yeah, going into the explore feature and finding individual churches, and then go through and find the members and start following them. Odds are one of them knows a kindergartner. So if they come to your page, especially if you follow somebody, go like, I think the number is 5. About 5 posts, follow them, 5 posts, boom, 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 boom. It gets a natural spark in whoever got all those notifications. Oh, who's CRAM for Kids? They just followed me and like half of my stuff. That brings them to your page. At that point, you have the chance to get them. So just by that it's for free. You're popping up on. You could do a couple hundred a day easily.
Wow.
And you're popping up on that many extra screens I run about 4 Instagram pages just for myself. I broke one off for photography.
Okay.
Colin Can Help, Colin's Conversations, and then I do one for free for my dad.
Okay.
Of all 4 of those, I'm getting about at least 1,000 page views a month.
Wow. Okay.
So that's 1,000 eyeballs that
Right.
on whatever I'm promoting or doing.
They're seeing it.
They see it and they're scrolling through it just from going follow, boom, 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 boom,
Right.
next, follow. But I'm finding the different people. Like for my dad, he does car detail products in Tennessee.
Okay.
So you find the city in Tennessee that he works at, you go to the surrounding cities, you find different people that are posting about cars or car dealerships, and you're just, again, reverse, who do I want to find his page?
Right.
Who do I want to find my marketing page? So for the marketing page, you go, entrepreneur, Cleveland entrepreneur, and keep going around the different areas that you're looking for that you could easily handle locally before you go nationally.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
like I said, about 100, 200, 300 of those a day, it adds up, and that's where Cleaner comes in. You go through, if they haven't followed you back, bye-bye. You can do about 40 or 50 of them at a time.
Okay.
So if you add 100, subtract 50 that don't follow you back, the whole thing of following the people is just to get their eyeballs on your thing.
On my page, right.
And I'd say at least 30%, give or take, depending
Wow.
if you're targeting right, and if you
Right.
have more interesting enough content,
Right.
are going to come follow.
Yeah.
So if you could do it 300 times and you get 30%, that's a lot more eyeballs than you're
That
getting.
is. And that's what I need. Yeah. I think I think for me, I'm trying to be too specific
Yeah.
in who I'm following and
Yeah, absolutely.
okay.
Because same too, I mean, at 123 followers, if only 10% are seeing the posts you're getting,
Yeah.
that's 12.
So, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one of those. But then if you could, it's just playing the numbers game. If only 10% are going to see it, you got to get out to 100 people
Right.
to try to get 10 to maybe get 3 to your website to maybe close 1.
Right.
So, but the more that you could amplify
Yes.
all that.
Yes. Okay.
So that's the best free Instagram information I could give. I mean, it's got me over 4,000 personally.
And that
in a
is
year.
not information I've never heard it that way before. The way you just said it.
There's a little bit of a stigma of like the follow unfollow, but I'm following you to see if you're interested in me, and then if I don't like your post or it doesn't align or whatever, you don't respond to the engagement, anybody's going to say bye anyways.
Right.
And that's where the Cleaner just makes it that much easier to see who's not following. Or I think you can make a whitelist too, or like if there's people that aren't following that you still want to make sure you follow.
Right.
But it's a manual thing. So it's one of those, just play the numbers game. And same with on Facebook. Every once in a while, it looks like you might share your own stuff. I mean, you do a really good job of showing the stuff you're interested in, but at least once a week, put in another link to your own YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like use your other platforms to kind of align and link
Right.
everybody back together.
Okay. Okay.
I don't give too much YouTube information just because I suck at YouTube. I haven't cracked that, whatever.
Okay.
But every other platform, LinkedIn is a big one that you're not going to think kindergarten book,
Right.
business site, but the organic reach, or if you do put a little bit of money behind and target, homeschools or executives, or you could follow just by Christian belief or your alumni.
Right.
Use that alumni name every time you want to talk about something. Hey, I went to blah blah blah. Every school you went to, you could do a different video for
Right.
I went to this, and then target those people. You're naturally coming more into them.
Right. Okay.
Or you do.
Okay.
What have you done for Facebook ads? I don't see the list of them. Are you just doing a post? Are you doing videos? What type of Facebook ads are you
The
running?
Facebook ads were posts. I believe they were posts. I think I did a couple of. I may have did maybe the CRAM overview. I'm not sure. But I did get a lot of reach. And I actually saw some conversation going on about it, and it was kind of funny reading how people were discussing my own book. And I saw one person tag a friend to say, hey, this would be good for, and they named, I guess, another kid. That, I said, do I get into that conversation or no? I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
You want to get in every conversation. Absolutely.
Okay.
Gary Vaynerchuk, have you ever heard of the name?
I have
Gary
not
V.
heard Okay, maybe I'm not sure.
Soak up his content. It's where your Bible is the real Bible, the marketing Bible is whatever this guy wants to say.
Wow.
But where I was going with the Gary Vee method is he's got a book. It's called Hook Jab. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
But his idea there is, you're not going for the knockout every punch. Knockout being the sale. You kind of just, it really would be great for Timmy because of this, and this. If you have any questions, let me know. Kind of just passively giving information. The whole idea behind social media isn't actually to sell.
Right.
Not the hard sell, at least. It's kind of just, you want to provide education and entertainment and figure out how to mold both of them just to make a more informed end consumer.
Okay.
It's not buy my book, buy my book,
right.
buy my book. Because think about it, if it's a page and you're scrolling through your own thing, and you're like, this lady, every time it's buy my book, forget her book.
Right.
But if it's, hey, today's Monday, math is Monday. Today's Tuesday, it's Life Science Day.
Yeah.
And you kind of, one idea I was going to give you, just as running the creative idea for video type thing, would be just that. Kind of make every day a different day in Megan's classroom.
Yeah. I have thought about that and hadn't thought through what that looks like, but I have thought about, how do I approach each day? Mm-hmm. Because in order for me to get people engaged and I want to feel that engagement. I want, how do you want to talk about something if I don't want to talk about it,
Right.
And I was like, what does that even look like? Okay.
A basic idea would be you go to church on Sunday and you kind of talk to a couple families that have kids that are about the right ages and say, hey, can I borrow, such and such I just want to film a video. It'll be about curriculum, kind of the Sunday school part 2.
Right.
And then it's you with the book kind of going through the lessons just to get that stock footage of just you pointing at things and having that back and forth dialogue and getting those feelings.
Yeah.
And then you take something like that and either make it into a YouTube video or there's your ad that's actually going to pull at those heartstrings.
Right.
Instead of just look at this image. It's kind of playing and look up, it's Meagan, CEO of CRAM.
Yeah.
Just kind of working through curriculum, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to let you know about blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I mean, once you have those different shots, you could do anything with them.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether you really know movie programs or you give it to a video guy or you're kind of somewhere in between there, what you could do with B-roll of just hanging out and showing curriculum or just film yourself on the computer typing things. Just having that background stuff allows your creative brain will kick right in once you have all these different footages of let me put this together with this to this. Nobody needs to know that this was on Tuesday, that was on Thursday, and you're putting it out on Monday.
Yeah.
Nobody's thinking through that. So just kind of coming up with same like we mentioned later.
Yeah.
On my 10 o'clock Instagram is usually kind of like a good morning inspirational kind of start the day.
Okay.
My 2 o'clock is look at this podcast episode or this is something from the podcast guest, kind of good morning, welcome, easy.
Right.
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah.
I want you to listen to this.
Right.
Opposed to wake up, hi, listen to this. Hi, listen to this.
Right.
But kind of for you could have it set up to where every Monday you're looking at it just like a calendar that you're trying to make plans for. Drop in Monday content, boom, 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 boom. All right, I got all the Mondays done for the month, and then kind of just keep. And then each month you can reuse that same calendar.
Right.
Nobody knows. Nobody's gonna be like, she posted that same thing 4 Mondays ago. Or even if you do for the first couple, eventually you'll have enough things. I tried to do 1 week was all music people I was going to promote, then writers, then entrepreneurs, and then kind of. So it's not just rapper.
Right.
Because that's what I was working with in the last month. It's kind of like, all right, let me rapper, teacher, doctor.
Right.
Kind of not because I go for a way wider demographic than you're going for. I'm going for everybody. But I started going nationally, internationally. Like my first couple, I did DJ Undo was a Romanian DJ. Okay. I had an author who was stationed in Japan. I was kind of just on this mission to get as many far out international Skype type calls recorded. Okay. And then I realized that the interviews I was doing with those weren't as good. By having this one-on-one, or a lot of times I'll have people over, make dinner or whatever, kind of just to build that rapport so it's a natural boom instead of just, Everybody's just sitting. So I'm looking at the computer. You know, how fun is that? Like, because it comes through. Like when you're animated, or I could say something to make you laugh. It's not a 2-second lag on it.
Right.
Things like that.
Right.
But podcasting should definitely be something that you're doing. I kind of leave that as the last of the ideas that I have for you on the marketing front.
But now, would you say podcasting is for everybody?
Anybody that's in business.
Anybody that's okay.
For themselves and has access to any bit of electronics is shooting themselves in the foot by not podcasting. Because think about how this podcast got started. I was trying to figure out how to get out of landscaping, get into marketing. But in order to market, I have to know more about everything other than just lawns or other than just cooking or the facets the skills that I had.
Right.
So if I'm talking to authors, I ended up self-publishing a Google tutorial book through Amazon.
Wow.
I don't read books very often, but I get a royalty check every month from the couple of ones that trickle in from here and there. This year I've sold 52 books, and I'm not an author. But I sat down after taking the Google Analytics test during the winter just to kind of build up my own credentials, and I was like, that was really boring watching all those videos. Like, if only I had a study guide to be like, all right, this is what I really need to know.
Right.
And then I was working with different authors who were doing self-publishing, and I didn't really know how to advise them because I'd never published a book. You know, like I'd only read X amount of books, so I was like, I'm not qualified, so let me learn it myself. When I designed everything myself, all the pages, all the graphics, boom, boom, put it up in a day.
Wow. Okay.
So it's kind of just, it's allowed me to learn and teach, and then just think of all the advice that I just gave you.
Right. Yes.
That allows me to then put out content of this is my philosophy, so anybody that's thinking about working with me, they hear time and time again, these are the similar things that I'm stressing, these are why I think they work, and talk to that person, see if they worked.
Right.
Or music for the podcast.
Yeah.
I've got 8 different people that are musicians that have been on the podcast that have given me some of their best instrumentals.
Wow.
Just to use royalty free, give them credit.
Yeah.
Hey, check out this guy, he did the music.
Right.
And then for them, if I'm making a clip of, say, the Adi Ray ones that I did, I have his music in the background.
Yeah.
All of those hit 300 views in 2 or 3 days, and it's not only, hey, here I am, but if you're like, well, I really like that beat in the background.
Right.
Who is that? That's him. Oh, I really want to check him out at that point. Or your music's probably going to be Jeremiah Craig. He's on YouTube at Jeremiah Craig. He's got a full thing on his website. Good buddy of mine. But he's a musician.
Okay.
He's also a content creator and a marketer and 18,000 other titles. But on his website, you could go download, I've got 20 or 30 of his guitars and different just basic background music that he allows everybody to use for free. So that's his way of getting his music out into different, you're like, oh, I really like this beat, then you go find the words, then you buy that one or stream that one. So it's finding a way to get all of your things in different things. So why you should podcast is, if just like we're doing now, sit down with a pastor or a youth minister or anybody in any congregation or anybody in any school, anybody that equates to anything that you're doing, and you're helping build a natural rapport. So same, that was the Mike Miles one, just coming out this Friday. At the end of this, actually, get him on camera. Where are they? I made these for the podcast.
Okay.
And at the end of each one, I've been given a handful out, and that QR code on the front there, if you scan that with your iPhone, it'll take you directly to the podcast page on Spotify.
Ah, okay.
Just makes it as simple as you can to take somebody to it. And he's looking at it like, why don't I do this for all of my singles, all of my albums? I'm like, exactly, why don't you? You know, and then on the back side, it just has a brief one too about the show, and I believe an email address at the bottom in case you want to contact me to be on the show or sponsor or whatever. So within that business card, you get 1,000 of them for not that much money. You know, it's so easy to print off cards. You get the design, you put the QR code, and then everybody that you're talking to about CRAM, oh, here you go.
You don't have to type in anything.
You don't have to remember anything. You don't have to remember that there's a Z at the end or a 4 in the middle or any of those other things.
Right.
But
wow, that's really cool.
yeah, it's super old technology that some people use, some people don't. But now that modern phones just pick it all up,
right?
Why not?
Yes.
If you don't have to remember it, type it in. That's 3 steps of just. And same too. You could while you hand it to them. Oh yeah, pull out your phone. I'll show you how it works right now. Look how easy it is.
Yes.
Then it's right in there. Boom, boom.
That's really cool.
So yeah, I always recommend that to musicians, anybody that has any, I don't think I have them inside, but my actual marketing card on the back, there's 2 of those. One will take you to my website, one will take you to my Instagram.
Okay.
So same too, instead of go to Instagram at blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
Boom, scan.
Right.
You're already on Instagram. It'll open up the app and everything for you.
That's really good. That is cool. This is cool. Okay.
So think about those for your next business card.
Definitely. Definitely.
So let's move back into the book for a little bit. Okay. We have life science and math out now.
Yes.
And then it's social studies and what's the other one coming out?
Language arts. And some people might say life science, social science. Social science, I've that one is pretty much written, and it's really delving more into kids' character. It's really going to deal with character. The life science one, it deals with character, but it deals more with why we were created and those parts of our personality that God put on the inside of us, that He put in, inside of all of us. His spirit, we were created in His image. That's what the life science deals with. The social science is more interaction, kids interacting with each other at school or on the playground and things like that, and just being how to have just good character and good behavior just in everyday life. That's what the social science one is more about. And language arts is just that. It's reading and the things that they're learning at that age, reading and sounding out certain words and reading certain words and things like that. And I'll definitely incorporate biblical content into that as well. So those are the 2 that remains in the series. It's a 4-part series. And so I'm looking forward to those 2 coming out, hopefully in the next year or so. Yeah. And
when you're done with those, are you going to kind of keep the same idea but then go up a grade to first grade, or what's the progression plans?
I would love to go into the higher grades. This is writing curriculum and developing curriculum. I love that, and that's what I want to do. That would be like my dream, to do that every day, all day. And so I would definitely love to go into upper grades and really look at how, as kids get older, it's not so much about developing their character, but getting more into how they just navigate through life, because they're getting older and their character is already developing and their behavior is already developing. But just trying to create a well-rounded and thoughtful human being. And when are kids learning in school? And incorporating those things into what they're learning, to me, is the easiest, instead of trying to separate it and make it one or the other. Trying to teach them at home how to be a decent human being and being a caring and loving human being, and then sending them to school and separating that. I don't like that. I like integrating both, and I think it's very easy to do so. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before I forget, brilliant question. Thank you, Brain, for coming up with it towards the end. I know book sales are a lot lower than they used to be, opposed to like a Kindle or whatever. I also know that anybody that's kindergarten through 95 years old anymore is attached to a screen. Right. Have you started to, or do you want to eventually get it into an app or an online application? What are you thinking of as far as getting CRAM digital?
When I first came up with the entire concept of it, it did include a web-based portion of the book. And the web-based portion was really to maybe do some sort of testing, or really testing out what they're learning here. That's what I was thinking. Maybe games and things like that. But I love the fact of kids don't write anymore. Right. I recently learned that they took handwriting out of school. I had to take, I'm like, are you kidding me? I definitely had to take that.
The dumbest thing is, at least where my stepdaughter goes, I believe they taught them how to sign their name, but that's all they taught them of cursive. So what if her name's Lily, she only gets to learn 3 letters?
Right.
How does that make sense?
That's true. And I couldn't believe it, but I still believe in the power of writing.
Right.
And because kids are just, they're gonna need glasses at like 3. The way we have them staring at screens all day, and that's all that they know. But when it comes to writing and reading from a book, I realize that, some people may think, books are kind of going away, but I don't think so. I think that they can definitely still be useful, and I think they're helpful. And so everything cannot be digital in my mind, but I do understand that something like this would definitely, especially the math book would definitely benefit from being online and kids being able to test and being able to test your kids in it. Why not?
Right.
But that's what I was thinking, more of the online version, being able to test kids and things like that.
Yeah, I definitely think that is something you should sooner than later figure out. You definitely have the cost of entry to get into the tech. You're just not going to teach yourself coding of JavaScript and things like that overnight. I don't know if that's something that's in the realm of your design people, because they already have the great visions. But if you already have all those images, to then work with a company that only makes apps.
Yeah.
Because same too, that's one of those where you and I are both thinking, I make websites, so I already see a way of kind of a progression through a website of it. But kids, they don't want to go to a browser; they want to have app.
They want, yeah.
They need to be able boom and be right there. So it's one of those. I think having that, but not only having that, and then also having the workbook and having them kind of vary of different problems, same message, same setup, but have different more problems here and core problems in a physical book. I think would not only be a better resource for the kids, but also kind of help sell it.
Yeah.
Kind of that way, not only is the parent not having to say, hey, we're going to go learn about math and the Bible at the same time, but you have to do it in a book. Yeah. Opposed to all right, you're on your tablet, no more games, pull up CRAM.
Right.
I want to hear that 20-minute timer on CRAM go ding of your daily CRAM.
Yeah. And I think it definitely allows kids to be able to apply what they're learning a lot easier on an app. That way they can apply. They learn it in the book, but then they're able to apply it and actually see how it works. And actually see how these concepts work and how easy they are on an app. Yeah, definitely. Facebook group. Do you have a Facebook group? Do I have a Facebook group?
Yeah, like a CRAM specific, or have you thought about that?
I have not thought about. I've joined different groups, but I have not thought about having a Facebook group.
I don't know how much interaction you have with your customers, but even if somebody orders it through online, kind of just add a link of, hey, join the community, and kind of build a community of everybody. You could have your testimonials, and those are great, but if you could actually go to a group where somebody's mom says that they had an issue of teaching this or that, or this worked better than that, or that worked better than that, I think would be a nice extra resource to have.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's free to set up and it's free to join, kind of just a free added benefit, because everybody needs community, especially we mentioned homeschoolers.
Yes.
The bad homeschoolers I know, they got taught at home and nobody came to visit, and it was just kind of like you're on an island. Where homeschooling, I would love to homeschool. If I could just send my wife to work and I get to stay home and do a little bit of stuff on the computer for marketing, and then just go teach school for half the day. That would be, like you said, it's a privilege and an honor for those that get to do that.
Right.
Where why not make that more accessible with the group if they're already home alone? And then you could also the group posts show up better than a page post.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed if it's from a group, it's getting into your feed.
It's getting into, definitely.
So again, just one of those free things to kind of work in there.
Okay.
But how I end every interview, I kept you. I think I kept you in the dark. I don't think I gave you the heads up on this. I call it the digital soapbox. You get up to 1 minute to look into either camera. Let me know and I'll get them set up just so they're dead on you. But you get to end it for the listeners and the viewers on any way you want. Whether you want to do a sales message, tell people how to get you, give some inspiration, all three. You get to end on whatever tone that you want to end on, and you get 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay.
Which one do you want?
Okay. I am Meagan Carner, the author and creator of the Christian Resource and Academic Manual, better known as CRAM. CRAM for Kids with a Z. FreeBeatsio.com is where you go to get right now our math book and our life science book. Your kids are going to love it. I've had rave reviews about it. It's such a great resource tool, whether over the summer when kids are like not even thinking about school, but as parents, you want to continue reinforcing what they're already learning. Youth groups, daycares, homeschool parents, a great resource tool for homeschool parents. Grab the copy today. You're going to love it. Great price, great product.
Awesome.
It don't matter where you are in your life. You don't have to do it by yourself. It don't matter what you need. Colin can help.
This
Was it as scary as you thought it was going to be?
It wasn't as scary because your questions were great and they just kept coming, and not where sit and talk for now.
Right.
I love that. I can't wait to listen to it because the advice you were giving, that I have not heard before. I will say that, I try to listen to every free webinar and marketer and everything, and they give great advice. But the advice you gave, I have not heard that particular advice before.
Nice.
And so that I really appreciate. And my mind was just like, okay, I gotta remember everything he's saying. But wait, I'm recording it, so I'll be able to listen to it again. This was pretty cool. Now, could I sit in your seat and do that with someone? I don't know. Maybe I could. I'm not sure. But I know that I do love talking about it. I want to get more comfortable in talking about it. Sometimes you just want something to sell itself.
Right.
And that's not how it works. So I want to get more comfortable in talking about it because I love what this is. And I wish I had something like this growing up. So this was pretty cool. I did like it.
See, I told you not to be nervous.